Sweet. Thank you, James, for joining us today. So jumping right in, what got you involved with marketing?
What got me involved into marketing? Well, I guess I've been actually doing marketing, you could say, since I was like a little kid. I did have a couple lemonade stands, and I sold popcorn with Boy Scouts growing up, which, was my first real experience in marketing. Not like something you put on a resume, obviously, but that was when I started thinking about selling things. And after I graduated high school is when I really got into it. I started this job selling knives, Cutco knives. And everybody thought it was a scam. You're working for this company called Vector Marketing, and you basically cold called, your friends and family, or as many people as you could list. And it was, basically cold calling, and you made sales, or if you made sales, you made a percentage of whatever you sold. It was commission. That's when I started thinking about commission. And since then I've, had other things, but that's really that job with Vector really taught me how to solve problems. Like, I realized that marketing is really just about solving problems or selling. They're very related, different concepts, but marketing really, at the end of the day, it's trying to show people how we can solve your problem, and then the product, right, solves the problems. So
what would you say are some of the biggest strategies you've learned from, cold calling, approaching people in an attractive way that makes them most receptive? And this both pertains to the digital marketing world as well as cold calling and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things you said to make them kind of receptive to it is, first off, you want to, be kind of convicted behind your product. If you call someone and you just sound like you're trying to hang out with them, but you don't really sound like your product is valuable, or like you really care about what you're selling and you don't really believe in it, the person's not going to be very receptive. They're probably not going to understand why you're bothering them. And so that's one of the main things has been for me, is I want to be convicted with my product. And I actually had a job where I wasn't convicted with my product, and it wasn't my greatest experience. I learned a lot, but I didn't really have a good time on the job. And that was when I was selling Comcast, and Comcast and AT&T, both, or people hate both of them a lot. And I didn't really believe in the product, but I was selling because I thought it was going to be a good opportunity in the long run. But it was actually somewhat of a scammy company. So yeah, that's definitely the number one thing, though, is you want to believe in your product, and you also want to see if they actually have a problem. So if you call someone, right, or you cold call someone, and they really sound like they already have your problem or the solution that you're offering, right? They already have a solution that they're happy with. I mean, sometimes, you want to still get 3 no's, but you don't want to try to sell people this stuff or sell stuff to people if you know that they really don't need it. They're really not interested. It can be a big mistake. So yeah, I mean, making people receptive, you want to be real. Don't try and sell them something they don't want, and then B, actually believe in what you're selling.
Right. So that is great advice, to be passionate and convicted about your product, because obviously that's going to transfer genuinely over to whoever you're trying to market to. In the digital world, it gets very tricky, right? So portraying yourself online, how are you going to convince people? And with your experience in digital marketing, what would you say is some key tools to help come across as genuine off of maybe the internet or some social platform?
Yeah, so it is similar but different. If you shift it to the digital market, basically you're losing the physical presence, your physical being there, or, in the case of cold calling, you're actually hearing a voice through the phone rather than reading it on an Instagram post. Although, I mean, some Instagram posts or social media posts have sound, but that's kind of besides the point. You're not hearing that voice live. And so whatever goes out on the internet or your digital marketing, you want it to come off as lively, even if it's not lively, right? Because you make a post and then you publish it, and then it's up on the internet. So you're not lively. You're not talking to them. So the post needs to have that liveliness incorporated into it already. So that way, when people come across it, they're not just like, oh, this is kind of boring. Like you want the post, even though it's just a bunch of words, to feel like you're talking to like a real human being, which can be a struggle. It's not easy. But after practice, you can really get at it. And I think that, videos, I know that Jackson Sullivan actually in Praxis talks a little about the effectiveness of videos. And that's one of the reasons why videos are such a good marketing tool. It's because they're the closest thing we have to just being with a person.
Right.
Like right now we're video calling. So I think video content is huge for digital marketing, but also photos and blog posts and etc.
So could you expound upon that? What makes a social media marketing post lively? What will engage it? Because I know you've had experience in digital marketing. What's your experience that's had the best maybe response?
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I found is my brain actually, in some ways, I'm good at coming up with ideas for posts, but not that good at making it an Instagram post. So I can have kind of I have a vague idea of what the posts need to be about, but really making it into an Instagram post is something, I see a lot of people on Instagram are better at. But one thing for sure is that some kind of either call to action can be really, really good. What's your favorite this or that? I mean, sometimes that has to be if the account's big enough, then you can do that. If you're first starting an account and you have 10 followers, probably no one's going to answer those questions. And also just typing you want your caption and your post, you don't want your caption to just title the post. You want to, so if I, if I took a picture of this painting behind me and I was just here is a painting I saw in the cafe, that would be kind of weak, right? So you want it to somehow be different. You want the caption to not just describe whatever your post is, but you want your captions to, kind of energize whatever the picture or post is. And then as far as coming up with, a lively post, that would depend on, what your line of business is or what you're trying to promote, what you're trying to market through the internet. But if you want, I can you can give me an industry and I can give you some examples of what I think.
So with your experience in digital marketing, what would you say is what's one story or endeavor that you kind of went on and then it didn't go according to plan? And this could be a marketing campaign that just didn't work out, or maybe a strategy that you tried that ended up not working out. What did you learn from it and what didn't?
Okay, yeah. Sure. So one thing is I haven't gotten into Facebook advertising too much, but the little bit that I did do basically completely failed. It didn't completely fail. So, with Facebook advertising, you go on, you set a budget for your campaign, you pick a bunch of categories that people have liked. In this case, I was promoting ArtSci, which was my intellectual apparel brand. And I sort of, looked at some stuff online, how to Facebook market, etc. Just going through the internet, figuring out how to do it. But what I found was I kind of failed in my posts because a lot of them only had pictures of the product. So they had the product in it, the t-shirts, the t-shirt designs that I was trying to sell, and they didn't have any people wearing them though. And so that was I think I did about half the money I spent, which I've only spent, about $150 so far, in my life on Facebook ads. And about half of that was spent on ads that didn't even have people in them. And the other ones fared much better, even though I still didn't get anybody actually to buy anything yet through my Facebook ads, which, the product I think still wasn't quite there where it needed to be. Since then I've kind of shifted and I'm going to be revamping my whole intellectual apparel brand within a couple months. But yeah, that's the first thing is you want to show your product in action, not just, oh, here's a picture of my product and here's why you should buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of wrapping up, the final question, what would you give as words of advice to a young aspiring digital marketer?
Young aspiring digital marketer. Well, one would be keep reading, or keep up to date. Maybe not reading, just keep up to date. Read TechCrunch and the latest, blogs about new things on the internet, because if you can get in on something like, if you'd gotten in on Instagram, in 2010 and just been like one of the biggest accounts when like no one was on it, it's sort of similar to something like, Bitcoin. Like if you're just the first to find out about something, and I think you could maybe even say this with yours.org right now, which the Praxians are talking about. I think that might be a good thing to get on right now. But yeah, keep an eye out for new stuff coming out. And, when you first start your digital marketing efforts, you don't have to have, I need to make LinkedIn posts every day, Facebook posts every day, Twitter posts every day, Instagram posts every day, Snapchat posts every day. You don't need to have a Tumblr post every day. You don't need to be on everything right away, right? So if you're just starting out, pick two maybe, Instagram and Facebook, and say, or Instagram and Twitter, and be like, I'm going to just really go at Instagram and Twitter and make, 5 posts a day for Twitter. I think Twitter is a good one apparently to do a lot of posts on. And then you could say, I'm going to do 2 or 3 posts on Instagram per day. And also, you can just be genuine. That's another thing. So don't, I had this thing where I would like go and follow tons of people, and I would just find an account that was related to mine or something, and I would just follow everybody who followed it. You don't necessarily want to do that. But what you do want to do is go and find accounts that are related to yours, right? And this is especially for Instagram marketing. And you want to engage with the users on there and follow some of them maybe, but not just like every single one. And that will, over time organically build or bring people to your site. Just really just engaging with people is something that can be super valuable even if you don't realize it at the time.
Interesting. Well, thanks so much, James, for being a part of this interview.
Yeah, no problem.